Okay, so we're off again with part 4, and this time I'm just going to show you the end products. So the bling is definitely a bit of a statement in this journal. I put it on the front but not the back, just to keep the bulk down. That's how our little strip finished up here, and with the stenciling, I think it sort of tones in and you've got that nice diagonal across the page. So on our next, so I've gone past the pages where there's still something relatively interesting, and we're on a blank page here, and I'm going to make a floating pocket here. I have started it because I can't show you everything as I do it. It simply would take too long. It's going to pin on there. Because I'd used this gardening book for this first piece of ephemera, I decided to use the same book to make this, and actually to make a tag as well, which we may get done. So this is how I did the pocket. If you want to see lots and lots of these pockets, different styles, different sizes, if you look up Patricia Viramontes, she has loads of tutorials, and her link is below. So I took my book page, folded it roughly in half. It's in 2 columns, so that was quite easy, and glued them together. So I just used glue stick, glued those together, and then for this little pocket I cut one of the edges off more or less completely, and I cut a little bit off the top, and then I roughly, I did it by eye, but I'll give you the dimensions approximately. So it's approximately 3 by 4 1/4, and the pocket piece, which I cut off separately because I quite like the writing to be the same way up rather than just fold it up. That obviously is the same width, 3 by just under, it's 1 5/8. A little bit either way is not going to make any difference. And then I stitched around with my straight stitch and rounded the corners afterwards. You can see that I've inked it and I've stamped the back. I wouldn't always do that on book text, but this was all about mildew and fungus and things like that, so I thought that was probably a bit more interesting. And I want to decorate this pocket. Now, I did originally think about stitching round one of these tea cards, or cigarette cards in this case, and sticking that on, which would look, obviously not this card because it's very damaged, but that would look quite pretty. But in the end I decided to stick with the fabric. So all I'm going to do with you now is layer up the same selection of lace and fabrics that I've been using so far, and I will do this with Fabri-Tac. I want it just down a little bit from the top, so that's a thin bead of that. So that's that one, and then I'm going to put some of this silk, and that's going to go to the top of the pocket. If I haven't got quite enough glue, you can always add a little bit underneath the edges later. Then I have a tiny little scrap of this pretty pink that I showed you earlier, and for that I'm going to be very sparing with the glue, hopefully anyway. I just want to spread that out along there. And then a little bit of lace. So this is getting quite, perhaps a little bit, a little bit thick. Obviously you can let this dry between each step if you're not doing a craft with me. and then I'm going to put a tiny bit of bling on as well. And I've just got 3 of them this time, which is similar to the first little tab I did. And then we would just cut off the excess. Side. So to make sure that's stuck down. And to put in this pocket, I've got, sorry, that's just a little bit, I do get quite fussy about things being straight. I do try to get them straight. I found some Roses cigarette cards I had in my stash, so that's going to go in there, and that's our little floating pocket. Quite often when I have a paper clip, I will put a charm or something on it, but again that would be more towards the end. I would really like to stick that little bit of silk down, so there we go. So that's that one. So that's decorated those pages for the time being. We may do more, but not quite this minute. Again, I'm leaving these for the time being, and obviously that page is quite attractive. I've stenciled ahead of time on this one, and again I want that diagonal, so you can see I've got a bit pink here, so I've just used one of the Mrs. Cog images and I've cut it down to 2.5 by 3.25, rounded one corner. I have backed it onto card so that it's quite stiff. I've stitched round and then stuck it down on these 2 edges, so I've got a tuck spot, and I'm going to make a tag to go in there, a collage tag. So I'm going to use this sheet of paper, which is another, as I showed you before, the page out of the gardening book, and I'm going to cut that down into a tag. And for the time being, I've got this little miniature paper cutter. I'm just going to pretty much eyeball it for myself, and then I'll give you the dimensions afterwards, in case you want to do something of a similar size. So so we're looking at, so that's our tag. Oh, nothing's going to plan. There we go. And somewhere here I have my little gadget for cutting corners. Thank you, Andrea, Party Maze. And then to make our collage for this, I've got this picture from Mrs. Cog from the Redoute Roses collection, and I've just torn some scraps of paper. And I can't really, again, give you my exact reason for these bits of paper, except that it's taken me quite a long time to pick them, even though they are literally scraps from my scrap box. But I think it's the fact that they tone with the colours in this image. So I'm going to have this at the bottom, across here. I have inked the edges of these as well. So that's going across the bottom. And my picture is going to go overlap that slightly, and I want this piece behind. So I want that sitting something like that. So I want it approximately under where it says agencies there. and I'm just using the tacky glue. So that should be fine. And then the other two pieces are going on the top, so the next layer is my picture. I've had to shut the window again and I'm roasting again. I need to get these videos up quite soon, otherwise all my references to the heat wave are going to be very out of date. It'll probably be raining again by then. So anyway, I don't suppose it matters really. This is how it feels at the moment. This piece is going across the top there to soften that top corner, and this piece at the bottom. This paper, this pink and blue paper, is some that I'd inked a long time ago to use in journals, and I have used the whole sheets in a couple of journals, but obviously for whatever reason got these scraps left. The other thing, I've got to decide is stitching, and I think I am going to stitch this. Sorry, I'm out of shot, I do apologise. I drifted off there for a minute, there we go. So I'm just cutting off the overlaps, and once you do that, once you cut the overlaps off, you can see what a really nice finish you've got. Now ideally, thinking about it now, I probably would have wished that I'd have stitched around the picture as well. I could still do that, I could go there, there, and from there to there, which I might decide to do, but I would like to go around the edge of the tag. I'm running out of time.